Thomas Brown makes changes to the Chicago Bears coaching staff as the interim head coach. We could talk a little bit about that and how Thomas Brown has already taken more accountability for the Chicago Bears problems than Matt Eberflus ever did. We're going to look at that, plus Jaylon Johnson's recent comments in regards to the firing of Matt Eberflus and him not regretting his decision to sign a contract extension with the Chicago Bears. And Kevin Warren makes a rumor that was growing and getting pretty loud very quiet. We're going to talk about all that plus a little bit of mailbag right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, man. And Thomas Brown, I continue to be really impressed with Thomas Brown, with the way that he handles himself, his demeanor, and just the way that he just talks about things. Now, and you guys know, I'm not somebody who's right now in the bandwagon of Thomas Brown being the Bears' next permanent head coach, but I do think he has a job to audition on the fly here. And that does not mean that I don't like what he could be bringing here mentality-wise by the Chicago Bears. Now, he did make some changes to that with him moving over into the head coaching role, the interim head coaching role. Chris Beatty, the wide receiver coach, has now been named and promoted as the offensive coordinator. For this time, apparently Chris Beatty has been very, very involved in the offense since Thomas Brown took over as offensive coordinator, especially with Thomas Brown being up in that box. And so Thomas Brown is going to come down out of the box. He's going to be on the sideline. He did say that he did kind of fight to maybe stay up there in the box, but, as the head coach, he has to be there on the sideline. And he is going to be maintaining play calling duties even as the head coach, but Chris Beatty gets promoted up to that offensive coordinator role with firing of Matt Eberflus as well, who was calling the defensive plays. Eric Washington now will be taking that over. Should be pretty much a lot of the same things there, and maybe even some change as far as calling more blitzes. We talked about Eric Washington talked about at the beginning of the season. There was a transition process in place anyway for him eventually to take over the play calling roles. So now that's just happening. He's going to take that over, and I hope that we see a little bit more blitzing as well with Eric Washington taking over that role. So really good to see there. As far as special teams, no change there. Richard Hightower will remain the special teams coordinator there, and so Thomas Brown has talked about believing in the staff and the accountability that needs to be there as a coach. And I love the fact when he talked about the timeout call as well, and Bobby called this out yesterday in the episode that we did after the press conference. He said this: "I'm not exempt from the responsibility in those actions. We're a team." And so already, like I said before, Thomas Brown has really shown more responsibility for decisions that maybe he wasn't even the head at already. Like Matt Eberflus would have doubled down and said, "No, we felt very confident in that. We felt like we made the right decision." This all came down to Thomas Brown. He's just a guy that is a leader. And you could tell that. You can feel that about Thomas Brown. He is more of a natural leader. And Matt Eberflus always seemed like a guy who was trying to lead, but not necessarily a natural leader. And, at the end of the day, like, Thomas Brown has a great opportunity ahead of him, whether he's auditioning for a role here with the Chicago Bears as the permanent offensive coordinator or the next head coach, or he's interviewing with another team. What he's done already for the Chicago Bears offense has been great. It's been a night and day change, really, when you look at just the way and the execution on that offensive side of the ball for the Chicago Bears. Now, with better accountability, which is something that he talked about, is wanting to be accountable, and what it means to be a coach. He says this: I talked about majoring in 3 abilities: the coachability, the accountability, dependability. That's all us, myself included, not above coaching, not above accountability. And that's what you want. Listen, it's easy to say all the right things. I want to be clear there. It's really easy to say the right things. It's harder to live by those right things and be a shining example of that. And Thomas Brown, through 5 games, is going to get a great opportunity to be a great example of what he wants to bring here. And Much like with Matt Eberflus. What did I say about Matt Eberflus? Yeah, you could be a good defensive play caller, but as the head coach, you're responsible for so much more than that. Thomas Brown was a really good offensive play caller. Now he has to show ability to be more than that, to manage the full game. And we'll see what better game management hopefully brings for this Bears team and how much different the team as a whole looks. Better accountability, better game management, better late game situations and scenarios. And we'll see what Thomas Brown has here. Like I said, he has a golden opportunity to show everything that's needed. For those that want him to be the next head coach, he has the opportunity to show that he deserves that. For people that just say, hey, Thomas Brown should get an opportunity to stay on there. If a new head coach comes on, he gets the opportunity to really show what he can bring and add to a potential staff as well. Thomas Brown, hey, listen, for more than not, it seems like the players are rallying around Thomas Brown. It seems like the fans right now are rooting for Thomas Brown. And that's what it comes down to. It's just you want somebody that you can have faith and believability in. Matt Eberflus lost the faith. He lost the faith of the fans as it went on. He lost the faith of the players as it went on. And that was really all indicative, as well as when you look at like Jaylon Johnson. So Jaylon Johnson was asked about the firing of Matt Eberflus, and he said this. A lot of at the days here, but he said this. At the end of the day, honestly, I don't give a damn about too much of it. At the end of the day, it's just one of those things where at some point enough is enough as far as expressing frustrations. At the end of the day, I found out through ESPN of the firing first and then received some texts and phone calls after that. It's not my first go around. It's not my first rodeo with firing. At the end of the day, it's business. Guys get fired all the time. Players, coaches, GMs. It happens. I don't think I necessarily had some major part to play or played a role in him getting fired. That's not me. But at the end of the day, there was frustration. There were words for myself, and I expressed just from my frustration of losing. You can say it's been the last few days, a few weeks, but for me, it's been the last 5 years of my damn career. Man, listen, Jaylon Johnson, as a veteran, is saying all the right things. Now, I will say, and I have said before, we need more from Jaylon Johnson on the football field than what he's given the last couple of weeks. Some mistakes have been made. But, Jaylon Johnson, when he was asked, he said that, in regards to him and his argument with Matt Eberflus after the game, he said this, got to the point where you don't remember everything that was said. Though he did imply that it was a major spur-of-the-moment reaction in response to what Eberflus was telling them after the loss. So basically what Jaylon Johnson is saying is the fact of, hey, I don't remember. It gets to a point where he blacked out. Jaylon Johnson blacked out. And he did say, listen, I just want to win. Like, and I get it. Like, that's felt. For Jaylon Johnson to say, listen, for y'all, it's the last few weeks. For me, it's the last 5 years. It's 5 years. It was 5 years of built-up frustration, 5 years of hoping and whatever with this team, having faith in this team in the offseason and coming in every year and being disappointed. It's all those things, and Jaylon Johnson has the right to feel those things. He has the right to live in that. Jaylon Johnson has lost a lot, and he's seen a lot of losing over the course of his Chicago Bears career. And at some point, I want people who get so fed up and tired of losing that they get passionate, that they get pissed off, that they get frustrated with themselves and with the whatever's going on. But Jaylon Johnson, you also need to channel in that frustration over these last 5 games, and we need Jaylon Johnson back. We need the Jaylon Johnson that shuts down the side of the field. We need a Jaylon Johnson that goes out there and gets takeaways. We need that Jaylon Johnson back here. And I'm glad to hear he was asked as well in the interview, did he have any regrets about signing an extension with the Bears? He said this, I have no regret. All this is surface level for me. But behind all of this, God has me right where he needs to have me. I'm frustrated, but that never changes my faith in being where I'm supposed to be. Still committed to this team. And I love to hear that. Right, and it's all great. It's rah-rah. It feels really good to have players that are this fired up about losing. Because for too long, and sometimes we've had players that have just taken it, right? And just, like still, I'm not saying that they weren't pissed off behind the scenes, and that it didn't bother them, and that they didn't have pride about what they wanted to put out on the football field. But I love to see this type of fire from Jaylon Johnson. Now, with that, Jaylon, you got to go out there and you got to put it all out on the football field. We need to see that frustration being when you shut down a wide receiver. We need to see that frustration being when you get a pick six. We need to see that because Jaylon Johnson is saying and doing the right things as far as I love that a veteran stepped up to a lame duck head coach that wasn't performing or wasn't playing in a way or performing in a way as a coach. But you gotta perform as well, Jaylon. You got to perform as well. And so I love a lot of what we're seeing from Jaylon Johnson as a Bears fan. It makes me happy. It makes me smile. It gets me fired up. But all that means nothing at all if on the football field you are also making huge mistakes, Jaylon. Every player is going to have mistakes. Every player is going to have down games. And when you don't believe in your coach, when you don't believe in the game plan, when you're frustrated, yes, your performance can sometimes lack. But at a veteran on this team who now has your money, who's locked in, you got to perform better yourself, Jaylon. And again, this isn't a call out Jaylon Johnson. It's not to call him a shit, because we know what Jaylon Johnson can be on that football field. We know that. There should be no doubts about what Jaylon can bring on the football field. But this is the team where we need you to bring it on the football field the most, Jaylon. This is where we need it the most. We need you to be locked in. We got it. We got to have it, right? And so we'll see what comes down with that, man. Jaylon Johnson is such an important part of this team when he's performing well. You know, we've heard like seen the tweets from Jaquan Brisker and things like that, right? So hopefully that the renewed focus, the renewed accountability from Thomas Brown as the head coach, removing out the cancer that was Matt Eberflus, hopefully that gets this Bears team on the right path. Because, you know, while this season really can't be turned around a whole hell of a lot unless a lot of teams lose, is outside of the Bears' control, really. Like, I mean, you want to go out there and win football games, but I think ultimately, like, that we need to perform better. We need to just execute better as a team. But with that said, Kevin Warren also debunked something I talked about a little bit on yesterday's Daily before the press conference, and he said this: my faith remains strong in Ryan Poles. And he did say that, hey, like Ryan Poles will be the head of this head coaching search. He will be the guy. He's not coming here to take over. He did say that they will be an exhaustive search when it comes to that, and that's the right thing that the Bears need to do. Whatever I said, they need to cast a wide net. It's not going to just come down to Ben Johnson. It's not going to just come down to Thomas Brown. It's not going to just come down to Cliff Kingsbury. But the Bears need to find the next great head coach. And I know some people say they want them to find a veteran, and I'm not against that either, right? I look at something as saying that going after first-time head coaches isn't necessarily the problem. It's just that you guys didn't get the right guys, right? We've seen a lot of franchises build well with first-time head coaches. But as well, there's something to be said, hey, if you're really trying to win now, go out there and get a veteran. And a veteran head coach is also probably going to hold this front office to a different standard of, hey, let's make sure we get the guys that I need so that this damn team can be successful, right? Either way, the exhaustive search, that's the right path that they need to go down. The Bears need to look at everything, all avenues, everybody that's available, and to figure it out. And let's be clear, Michael Rappaport said this as well. This is all about Caleb Williams. Everything they do is going to be in the best for the development of Caleb Williams, which might put the Bears in a direction of an offensive head coach. You know, I talked about yesterday some of the defensive-minded head coaches that, you know, were reportedly some of the ones that the Bears were targeting, and that really seems like things that the Bears have done in the past. Listen, just get the right guys when it comes down to. We know that Ben Johnson is somebody that's been reported. We know that Cliff Kingsbury has been somebody that's been reported. Marcus Freeman as well with Notre Dame. Like, all these names are cool, whatever. They all bring their own thing. But at the end of the day, I just want the Bears to get the right guy, right? And regardless if it's a first-time head coach, right, I would prefer somebody who's not a first-time NFL coach. But if it's a first-time head coach, support that guy with some veterans. Support that guy with some people around him that are going to be right and help him develop whatever it is. But Kevin Warren put that to bed. He quieted that rumor, and that's good. That's what you want. You want Kevin Warren involved, but you want to trust the guys to do the job that they need to do, and that's Ryan Poles. You want to trust him to do the job that he needs to do. I understand, as I said yesterday, Kevin Warren coming down as the CEO, that everything is his responsibility. Everything is his responsibility. And I understand whatever level that he wants to be involved in, being involved. I also understand, hey, these are guys, if you believe and trust in the people that you have in place, I can't say put in place because he didn't hire Ryan Poles, but that you have in place, right? You want to trust them to do their jobs. And so we'll see what this gets. Hopefully the Bears end up on the right side, finally, of a coaching search. And then we can get a coach that we really look at. Everybody's talked about it, used the same phrase. You could tell that the same thing is being said in the organization. Poles, Kevin Warren, Jaylon Johnson, everybody's talking about they want a leader of men. That's what this team, you need a true leader of men. And when you have somebody that's been in that position trying to lead, whether that's an actual leader, it's evident more and more how much you need it, right? And, you know, I love that there's some faith in how coveted this job is going to be, which leads us to our voicemail that we're going to get into today. Ant talks about that. We're going to go ahead and play this voicemail from Ant now.
Yo, what up, fellas? This is Ant, the Army vet. You know what I'm saying? Thinking about this next coaching hire and the press conference and everything. And I hear a couple people saying that, like, they don't think that the Bears is a coveted job to coach. If you had told me that, 3 years ago, I probably would have agreed, you know what I'm saying? Just coming off Nagy and Pace jacking up the budget, the draft, and all this other crap. But Ryan Poles fixed that. Like, he fixed that in the quickness, you know what I'm saying? So I don't think that this is not the most coveted job in the NFL, because Caleb Williams, absolutely, he's the quarterback. He's an ascending quarterback, like a future Hall of Fame looking type quarterback. I'm just throwing that out there because, my fanatic for the team and everything like that. We don't know how this kid's going to be in 3, 4, 5 years, but he looks like he is that guy. You have offensive weapons that's locked in. You got 2 wide receivers that's definitely locked in. Roma Doomsday, DJ Moore. You got tight end and Cole Kmet locked in. You got running backs that's locked in, Roschon and Swift. Don't have a line that's locked in. Now, on the offensive side, set. Defense, you have a top 10 defense that's already set. You just need the right guy to, to lead those guys. Sweat, locked in. You got linebackers locked in. You got DBs locked in. You know what I mean? Like, you have talent on this team. The only thing that you need to do is fix the offensive line. Get a good defensive-minded coach or a defensive coordinator. If we're going to offensive-minded head coach way, that defense is top 10. You just got to push those guys. If I was a coach, why wouldn't I want to come here? The team is set. The front office looks set. You know what I'm saying? Ryan Poles is doing the thing, and yeah, we can say he had all these misses and all these bad things, but let's not overlook all these good things that he done did. You know what I'm saying? Ryan Poles has done a great job since he's been here. Every mistake he's had, he owned up to it. You know what I mean? And honestly, I said this alone for a while. I don't think he hired Matt Eberflus. I think it was one of those things like when Ryan Pace got here, they forced him to get, you know what I'm saying, John Fox. I think it's the same thing with Poles. He got here, Matt Eberflus was one of those guys that they wanted. It was like, hey, we going to get this guy before somebody else do. I think it was one of those situations. Now that Kevin Warren's there, Poles is there, let's see what they really do when they get out there. Like, I think this is a good spot. I think people will want to come here. But that's just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. But as always, shout out up. Better, y'all have a good one.
Listen, I agree with you. Like, this should be a coveted job. Now, I will say, and even admitting this, I got to admit and be honest about my franchise. I love the Bears, but the Bears have the view of being a franchise that just can't fucking get right. And so, unfortunately, while this job should be coveted, there's going to be some questions on if it will be because of the doubt around some other things, especially with George McCaskey coming back up recently and reportedly him not being the one that was against firing Matt Eberflus in the middle of the season. But like I said before, we have to change our history. We actually have to do some things differently. And let's hope that that's the case. But I do think, like, you look at Caleb Williams, you got a lot of weapons on offense. Yes, we need the offensive line to be changed. But when you also look at it, the Bears are in a pretty good cap situation. They have a ton of draft picks as well going into next year. So a coach coming into this role on top of Caleb Williams, on top of having a solid defense, even if they're not a defensive-minded head coach, that they find the right defensive coordinator, you got some things that are off to the races. And I think Thomas Brown has shown a really good blueprint of what Caleb and what this offense can be. You add you eliminate the question of the offensive line in this offseason as well. And yeah, this should be a job that people want. This should be a job that's desirable. The Bears just got to make sure that they whoever they interview, that they show their commitment to turning this into a winning franchise, the commitment to doing what is going to take this offseason to getting this Bears team where it needs to be. They're going to have to sell themselves. They're going to have to sell themselves in the direction of this franchise and the future of this franchise and why this makes sense for coaches. Coaches are caring more and more, whether they're first-time coaches, whatever, more and more about legacy and understanding what each job means to the legacy and how successful that they can be in it. We're seeing a new crop. Hell, you look at Ben Johnson turning down the Washington Commanders job because of his doubts around that, right? So there's a lot that plays into that. These aren't coaches that don't live in the age anymore where coaches are just, well, every coach, some are, where every coach is just happy to get an opportunity to get a job. Some of these coaches look at what it means for legacy. Hell, Caleb Williams is a quarterback that came into this league talking and thinking about legacy, right? So it's important. The Bears are going to have to show that they are committed to winning above any and all things. And that comes down as well to Ryan Poles. How much has Ryan Poles learned from the mistakes that he has made, right? And how much better are we going to expect, or can we expect from him going into next season and the decisions he makes this offseason? This should have been a big wake-up call for Ryan Poles. Not only in the coaching situation and how that went with Shane Waldron and with Matt Eberflus, but also how it went with you really had too much faith in what this offensive line could be. You really did. Now, Thomas Brown has made it look decent, and they played better with a quicker offense and things like that, but you really got to look at your evaluation. The Nate Davis was a terrible one for you. The not moving Velus Jones, there's a lot of mistakes that Ryan Poles made just this offseason that he needs to learn from and wake up from. And if you truly did learn from that, there's no reason to think that this next offseason can't be a more beneficial one for the Bears. But they're going to have to prove it. They're going to have to show it. They're going to have to go out there and live it. That's what this team is going to have to do. And hopefully whoever is that next permanent head coach for the Chicago Bears is a guy that we all believe in, a guy that can be successful, and a guy that comes in and leads these men, right? So, yes, the job for the Chicago Bears should be a coveted job. It should be a job that people want. But it's up to the Bears to prove that that's the case, right? Because not all things that should be are. That's just the way that it works. And perception does matter. And the Bears' perception around the league isn't great. That's one of the things that Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles were supposed to change here with this franchise. And George McCaskey got to get the fuck out their way, let them do their job, and then let's see what this team can be. That's my thought process. Thank you for leaving that voicemail. And that's my time for today, guys. Make sure you guys are following the show at Chi Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, chicagobearscentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that's thanks to you lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.